Have you ever considered how dependency, a condition we often view negatively, could be the very thing that leads us to liberation? Sounds paradoxical, right? Well, let's dive right into it. Dependency is often perceived as a weakness, a vulnerability, something we should outgrow as we mature. But what if I told you that this perception is not entirely accurate? That dependency, in fact, is an integral part of our nature and our development, and can even be a source of strength. Consider this. As infants, we are entirely dependent on our caregivers for survival. This dependency fosters a bond of trust and security, which forms the foundation for our emotional and social development. It's this early dependency that enables us to grow into independent individuals capable of forming healthy relationships. Now let's take a look at romantic relationships. You might have heard that the strongest relationships are those where each person is completely independent, where they don't need each other. But is that really the case? In reality, a measure of dependency is crucial for the health of a romantic relationship. It's this mutual reliance that fosters a deep emotional connection, a sense of security, and a bond of trust. Even in professional settings, dependency isn't necessarily a bad thing. Think about it. In a team, each member depends on the others to fulfill their roles effectively. This interdependence can encourage cooperation, boost productivity, and foster a sense of camaraderie. So you see, dependency isn't just about needing someone or something. It's about connection, trust, and cooperation. It's about recognizing that we are social beings, that we are not meant to navigate this world entirely on our own. This is what we call healthy dependency. However, like anything in life, balance is key. Dependency becomes problematic when it crosses into the realm of the unhealthy, when it stifles personal growth and autonomy, when it becomes a chain that binds rather than a bridge that connects. So, it's clear that dependency isn't inherently bad, but what happens when it goes too far? Dependency becomes a problem when it crosses the line into codependency or addiction. Imagine a woman, we'll call her Jane. She's in a relationship where she feels constantly drained, always trying to meet her partner's needs, neglecting her own. This is the reality of a codependent relationship. Jane is emotionally reliant on her partner, even though the relationship is far from fulfilling. She finds herself in a cycle of sacrificing her own happiness and well-being to keep the peace. Now, let's consider another scenario. Meet John, a successful businessman who has developed a dependency on alcohol. He started with a glass of wine after work to unwind, but over time, this habit escalated. Now, John can't imagine a day without alcohol. It's not about enjoyment anymore. It's a necessity. This substance dependency is ravaging his health, his work, and his relationships. Both Jane and John are examples of unhealthy dependency. In Jane's case, her emotional well-being is tied to another person's state of mind. She's trapped in a cycle of emotional neglect and sacrifice, never feeling truly valued or fulfilled. This codependency is sapping her spirit, her identity, and her joy. As for John, his physical dependency on alcohol is taking a toll on every aspect of his life. His health is deteriorating, his work is suffering, and his relationships are strained. The substance that was once a source of relaxation has become a destructive force. These types of dependencies are often accompanied by feelings of guilt, shame, and self-loathing. The individuals trapped in these situations may feel isolated, misunderstood, and helpless. They may feel like they're sinking in a sea of despair with no lifeline in sight. But here's the thing. These dependencies, as debilitating as they are, can be overcome. It's not easy, but it's possible. And the first step is understanding the problem. Recognizing the dark side of dependency is critical in starting the journey towards liberation. These stories illustrate the detrimental effects of excessive dependency. But how do we break free? Liberation from unhealthy dependencies often requires a journey of self-discovery and personal growth. Picture a woman named Sarah. She's a dedicated mother, a hard worker, and a loving friend. But beneath this facade, she's been grappling with a long-standing issue: codependency. Sarah had always prioritized the needs of others over her own, to the point where her own well-being was suffering. Recognizing this, she took the first step towards liberation by seeking therapy. Therapy was a transformative experience for Sarah. It was a space where she could explore her feelings, confront her fears, and learn new ways to assert her needs and boundaries. This was no overnight process. It required time, patience, and a willingness to change. But with every session, Sarah grew stronger, more self-aware, and more capable of breaking free from the chains of codependency. Now, let's consider John. a man who had been wrestling with addiction. His road to liberation began when he joined a support group. This was a place of acceptance, where he could share his struggles without fear of judgment. It was also a place of hope, where he could see others who were further along on their journey to recovery. In this supportive environment, John found the strength to confront his addiction. He learned to identify triggers, to handle cravings, and to build healthier coping mechanisms. Each day was a battle, but each victory, no matter how small, was a step towards liberation. These are just two examples, but they underscore the importance of seeking help and building a support network. Liberation isn't something we achieve in isolation. It's a journey that we often take with others, whether they be therapists, support group members, or loved ones who stand by us. These stories are testament to the fact that liberation from unhealthy dependencies is possible. But what does liberation really look like? Liberation isn't just about breaking free from unhealthy dependencies, it's about building healthy relationships with ourselves and others. Let's delve deeper into the concept of liberation. When we talk about liberation, we often visualize it as breaking free from the chains of dependency. But it's much more than that. Liberation is a continuous journey, a process of self-discovery, and a commitment to personal growth. It's about establishing a relationship with ourselves that is based on self-love, respect, and acceptance. Now let's consider some real-life examples. There's the case of Jane, who was once in the throes of substance dependency. Jane's liberation journey started when she decided to seek help. She committed to a recovery process that not only helped her break free from her dependency, but also allowed her to rebuild her life. She started working again, rekindled her relationships, and most importantly, learned to love and respect herself. Then there's the case of Mark, who was emotionally dependent on his partner. The end of that relationship felt like the end of the world for him. But as he began to understand his dependency, he also started to see the possibilities for liberation. He began therapy, learned to be independent, and started building healthier relationships with those around him. He learned to find happiness within himself, rather than relying on others for it. These stories, and countless others, show us that liberation isn't a one-time event. It's a journey that requires persistence and courage. It calls for a willingness to confront our fears, to face our darkest corners, and to continuously strive to be better versions of ourselves. Most importantly, these stories remind us that liberation is not just about breaking free from dependencies. It's about building healthy relationships with ourselves and others. It's about reclaiming our lives, reclaiming our power, and reclaiming our ability to love and be loved in return. These stories show us that liberation is a journey of personal growth and self-improvement. So we've traversed the landscape of dependency, from its necessity to its dark side, and the road to liberation. What have we learned? In our journey, we've discovered that dependency isn't inherently bad. It's a natural part of life, woven into our very existence. We depend on others for love, companionship, and support. We depend on systems and structures for stability, safety, and sustenance. This interdependence is what keeps the fabric of our society intact and allows us to thrive as individuals. But like most things in life, dependency has a paradoxical nature. Its dark side emerges when it turns into an unhealthy reliance, a chain that binds us, stifles our growth, and robs us of our freedom. It could be a toxic relationship, an addictive behavior, or a crippling belief system. These dependencies can take a toll on our mental, emotional, and physical well-being, plunging us into a downward spiral of despair and disillusionment. However, we've also explored the road to liberation, a path that is often fraught with challenges, but one that leads to freedom, growth, and self-fulfillment. It's a journey that demands courage, resilience, and self-awareness. It calls for introspection, for us to look within and identify our unhealthy dependencies. It requires us to reach out and seek help when needed, whether it's from trusted friends, family, or professional therapists. And finally, we've seen the face of liberation. It isn't just about breaking free from the chains of dependency. It's about building a healthier, happier you. It's about nurturing relationships that respect your autonomy, developing habits that promote your well-being, and fostering a mindset that empowers you. So, as we wrap up, let's remember that while dependency is a part of life, it doesn't have to become a life sentence. We all have the power to break free from unhealthy dependencies and chart our own course towards liberation. Remember, liberation isn't just about breaking free. It's about building a healthier, happier you.